As you can see right here, there's a lot of rock in the soil, and there's some small piles there. The rock that's left in the soil now is generally, for the first foot, is generally, in the areas that I've worked this year, is generally, the rock that's left is generally less than 3 inches across, with the scattered exception. This area here, there was a little less picking this year, especially towards the back. And as you can see, the garden is generally broken up in three sections. This one over here was the one that was highly intensely worked with the blue potatoes, and the rocks came out of it. It was fertilized, a nice, fairly heavy fertilizing, and it was limed. The next one here had slightly less, and there wasn't as much work. It was later in the season. That's a big part of it. And the one over here was just, this one at the end was just plowed in. As you can see, like I say, less rock, more rock, and over this way, significantly more. And as you can see, some of the rock there are pretty much 4 to 6 inches across. This area here, next year, will be planted in either squash or potatoes. The center area, definitely potatoes, and that'll pull out some of the wireworm, unfortunately for the potatoes, but it is one way to get them out of the soil. And like I say, you're building the bed, and after the potatoes, which are the easiest crop to grow, the next one are the garlic, which are a lot more higher value, and probably some other greens in the future. We can start with this down here. If it's not potatoes next year, or carrot, which are fairly low maintenance crop compared to some of the greens or whatever, it could be put in squash with their lowest maintenance crop. The other big factor you got in this area here is you do have moose damage. Last year, a significant amount of the carrots were basically chewed off by moose. Any peas that were set were chewed off by moose. There are certain types of beans, like the broad beans, that don't seem to be affected by it, but it's one of the worst problems here. You can deal with the climate, like the garlic works perfect. We're up about 600 feet in elevation, and you get a slightly damper and colder climate here. As I speak, there's small amounts of snow falling. Down on the bottom, it's warmer and drier. So this is garlic may be a good crop, as the potatoes too, and same with the other root crop, which is traditionally grown here. There's a farmer on both sides of me now. One's growing cabbage, the other one was growing potatoes and carrots and greens, the rapeseed greens. So there's lots of opportunity in this area, and you get these beds that are these small gardens which hadn't been used for say 20 or 30 years. You do a little bit of maintenance and a little bit of upgrading like that. More organic matter needs to be put here. That's the next step that I'm going to do, but that can be top dressed compost on those garlic beds, and same with the other stuff here. But luckily enough, about a kilometer away, there's a destroyed peat marsh where the bikes and four-wheel drives have been going through it and doing donuts and whatever else. So I don't feel guilty about digging up a new fresh marsh. That on top of the chicken farm with the manure, you could be looking at a lot of organic matter quick. Next thing is the relime it afterwards, and you should be able to, with the lime and the manure, raise your nutrient value and get a very significantly higher yielding crop. A lot of this stuff and the storage and a few of the other processing stuff, while it's done in other areas of the country, it doesn't seem to be done as much here. So it's pretty rudimentary in a lot of cases, and you want to go and you want to see what they do in other areas and then adapt it to this specific growing conditions, and you can actually increase your yields substantially. By increasing your yields and diversifying the crop, you can make significantly more money than just say growing cabbage. On the other hand, certain things like potatoes and cabbage do have their merits for their storage ability. On the other hand, well, cabbage needs to be sprayed. You need electric fences and everything else to keep the moose up, and the whole 9 yards of it. So we can figure out what works good here, what doesn't. Some of this, like the borage, was an experiment. Again, borage seems to... This is the 11th of November. The borage seems to be still sturdy and upright, with the snow on it right there, or the ice pellets. So that's that. There's another few areas around here that are available for agriculture, like the lease application that we have. So we could be looking at a nice new industry, or a nice new way to look at an older industry in this area.